Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be talking about the adjectives and I'll be going more into detail in terms of the position of adjectives and examples. So let's start with the definition, right? Basically, adjectives are words that make sentences more interesting, and an adjectives describe a noun. So an example of that could be the American flag, or you can say the delicious chocolate cake. Those are simple examples of how we can make things sound more interesting. Now, if we're looking at the position of the adjectives, right, we have seen that adjectives can be placed before or after a noun. Now, let's look at an example that's placed before the noun. The shiny apple, right? This is known as an attributive adjective. Now, the adjective can also be separated from the noun, right? For example, the apple was shiny. And this one is known as the predicative adjective, which simply means that it does not appear immediately after the noun. It follows a verb. So how does one change from a noun to an adjective? Let's look at some examples there, right? She is acting like a child. She is childish. Can you see the difference? Childish is describing her. And then we're just going to move on to the types of adjectives. This will give you more insight on how to classify them. So firstly, the descriptive adjective. This is the most common type of adjective, right? This describes a noun or pronoun. So an example of that, a plastic chair. Straightforward, very common. The next type, proper adjective. Now this is a proper noun that can be used as an adjective. For example, the German beer, right? Or you can even say the Irish coffee, right? That's describing something, but using a proper noun as the adjective. And we're looking at the demonstrative adjective. Now, this adjective describes a particular noun. For example, this person, these players. And then the next type, interrogative adjective. So basically, this adjective asks a question. An example of that could be, which subject? That's a question, but which is the adjective? Another type of adjective, numerical adjective. Now, this states the number of the noun. So it describes how many. So for example, 3 people, or 4 women, 6 boys, right? So numerical adjective. And then there's another one, indefinite adjective. Now this one states an unknown quantity. So it's not being specific in terms of numbers like the numerical one, but it is classifying. So for example, you can say she's going to have some drinks, and some would be the adjective. Or we had to make several stops before we reached the bus rank. And then this one's common, and we don't even realize it's an adjective. This is adjective of order. For example, first place, final countdown, last week. So this is now stating the position of the noun. Possessive adjective. Now this one shows the ownership of the noun. For example, you can say my dog or your dress. And then there's the compound adjective. Now this adjective is formed from compound words and therefore has a hyphen. Okay, so for example, half-baked cake, right? It's hyphenated. Half-baked is hyphenated. Or it's a well-deserved holiday, and well-deserved is hyphenated. Okay, and then finally, there's the relative adjective. Now, relative adjectives show us how things relate to each other. And some of the examples could be like what or whatever, which or whichever, or whose. And that's the end of it. I hope that this video was educational for you. Feel free to drop comments, feel free to subscribe, give me some feedback. I'd like to hear from you, and we will definitely be in touch again. Cheers.